Welcome to another talk. The title of the class, Transformational Choices. Today I will be talking about right action. Fourth factor on the Noble Eightfold Path, right action. Let's see what that means. In 1982 to 1983 school year was my last year in college in the US. I was going to be there for 5 years. This was my last year in college. Now, before the Christmas holidays in 82, I kept getting this message from the good Lord that I would be making a call home to my parents in Lagos, Nigeria, without having to pay for it. How is this going to happen? I will not pay. In those days, there was no WhatsApp, no free calls. Payphone for the foreign students. Gather the coins, pop, pop, pop. It was expensive. But as a foreign student, well, mom and dad far away have to make a phone call. But the message kept coming. You will be making this call to your parents and you will not be paying for it. Woof! So, okay, let's take a look how this happens. At the time, I was dating a beautiful Jewish babe. Now, she had a friend who also became my friend. And just before the holidays started, this friend of my girlfriend's, she knew I used to meditate and she had some kind of respect for me. And she was going through a hard time and asked me for some advice, which I gave to her happily. It proved to be quite useful for her. Anyway, I forgot about her. Holidays started. My girlfriend scuttled off home to be with her parents, like pretty much everyone else did. The college was empty almost, except for the foreign students. Christmas was approaching. How was I going to make the call? What's going to happen? Well, one night before Christmas Eve, I was in my studio working late, 7:38 in the evening. Nobody else was there, empty studio, me alone, and there was a knock on the door. Who's coming to visit at this time? Opened the door, and there was this girl that I had helped a couple of weeks earlier. And she was quite excited. Hey, Behram, guess what? What? What happened? I was watching TV and Burt Reynolds was on the channel I was watching. And he was telling everybody, the viewers, that he had just won a lawsuit against a magazine that had published some ridiculous things about him, lies about him. He had won the case. He didn't want the money, but he got the credit card of these guys. And he was giving the credit card information to anyone who was watching the program at that time to make a call home to their families. Here's the number, Behram. I know you want to call home. Here's the number. Call home. I said, what? Yes, this is the credit card number. All you have to do is give the credit card number, dial, and you're home free. I said, fantastic. Thanks. And then she scuttled off. Christmas Day, took the credit card number, and spoke to my mom and dad for 10 long, beautiful minutes. 10 minutes, not more. It happened. I didn't have to pay for it. How did that message come into my consciousness weeks before it happened? Fascinating stuff. When we are in tune with the universal forces, the wildest things happen. What's the moral of the story? In college, I was endearing to almost everybody there. The students, the staff, the administration, everybody loved me. Well, hey, yeah, being endearing to people happens when we speak to those around us with love and caring and respect and so on. We're helpful, we're kind, we're gentle. And people remember us for that. So when we are endearing to the world around us, then serendipities, the wildest things open up for us. They gush into our lives. These amazing realities gush into our lives like a mountain torrent. We don't have to struggle. It becomes effortless. Why? Personal refinement. So important. Transformational choices. Choices that lead to a happier, healthier, brilliant life. I had just one conversation with that girl. I don't even remember her name. I don't even remember her face today. At that time, yes. And yet, I had made such a profound difference in her life that she thought about me to come all the way from the women's dorm, trundling along in the evening, to tell me, Behram, hey, look at this. Yeah, transformational choices. So let's look at right action. What exactly is it? So please tell, what is right action? Right actions are those actions that draw us closer to awakening with each passing day. Simple. They draw us closer to awakening to the true nature of reality with each passing day. All right? So, right action can also be seen as actions that are mutually uplifting for oneself and the world around us. No harming, no exploitation, no, 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 no. Traditionally speaking, right action, the foundation of right action is in the maintenance of the five precepts. Yeah, five precepts. If we are not maintaining five precepts, practice no can do. And what are the precepts? Do not kill, no slaughtering people or creatures or harming the planet. No, no, no harming, no killing. Cherish life. No stealing, no bullshitting, manipulation, no stealing, no taking what is not freely given. Third, sexual misconduct. Yeah. Think of the human trafficking going on these days. Yeah. Oh, Lord. And the US, number one offender, human trafficking, sexual misconduct. No, no. Hell realms. Fourth, The tall stories we tell ourselves and those around us. No bullshitting, no lies, no improper speech. Yes, no clinging to unexamined opinions. Right speech, very important. And the last one, keep your mind clear for the practice. So, no intoxicants in the form of liquor of any kind, which gives you dizzy, or drugs. No intoxicants because it clouds the mind and it leads to unwholesome choices, wrongdoing, and the gates to the hell realms open widely to welcome us. Stay away from this. No killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no bullshitting, and intoxicants. Avoid like the plague. All right, that's the traditional. But let's look at it a little more deeply from other angles, because it's a lot more than just maintaining the 5 precepts. Yeah. Let's begin with meditation. Everybody wants to meditate because they believe it's a spiritual multivitamin that will do wonders for them. Brothers and sisters, yes, meditation has its beautiful, fantastic sides, but it also has its dangers. Big, huge dangers. Because once we start to meditate regularly, it will, by default, open doors in our mind related to issues we have been avoiding and denying and suppressing. And it will force us to resolve these issues. Yeah? And when these doors open, those things which we have suppressed because we don't like them come percolating up. And if we're not ready to befriend and to transform these issues, big difficulties arise. And I'll be talking about that. Okay? Most people do not recognize these dangers in meditating incorrectly, especially without a teacher to be close by when we get into the deep end. So why do these realities, painful realities, open up for us in meditation? Meditation basically fast tracks our practice, puts us in the fast lane. Yeah. To fast track our practice, to clear the mind for awakening, as I've said in earlier classes, we first need to do a little purging of the toxins. Because these toxins we're holding on to for lifetimes, pretty much, they're like monsoon clouds that obscure the sun. The sun is shining, but we cannot see sun. Same. The magnificence of this world is around us, but we can't see it because we are influenced by these unresolved issues that needs resolving. Okay, so meditation fast tracks our practice. And right action is that action which gets into meditation after establishing a proper close, loving contact with a teacher who can pull us out of a difficult scenario when we get into it and avoid us going into rehab or early rebirth, even. Okay, a teacher is imperative, but not just any teacher. It has to be someone who knows our history. It has to be someone who knows our history so that they can guide us according to our unique needs, not a general thing. Yeah, each one gets his own dose of practice. That's important. I'll say it again. Right action. Apart from maintaining the five precepts, when we start to meditate, we have to be conscious of the dangers involved. Yes, meditation has some brilliant sides to it. Absolutely. You can't awaken without meditation. But before the awakening, we have to go through the dark side. And most people are not prepared for the dark side because most people live in arrogant mode and believe they can do it by themselves. They don't need a teacher. I've seen a lot of cases where people have experienced incredible suffering because of this huge monumental folly. Let me scare you a little bit. Claire, Sister Claire, was 28 when she came for a 10-day retreat I was offering in North India years ago. 28 years old, beautiful girl, intelligent, lovely, lovely person. This is the story she said to me. Well, students narrate these stories during our one-on-one sessions. Here's what she said. When she was 22, 6 years before she came to Manali, North India, when she was 22, a friend of hers told her, "Hey, Claire, there's this fantastic 21-day retreat. 21 days, yes! 21-day retreat in Goa. I'm going for it. Are you interested?" And Claire had been a practitioner of yoga for some time, and she had dabbled in meditation here and there, nothing serious. She was interested in spirituality. So she said, "Oh, Goa, wow, beaches." So she joined the retreat. 21 days. The first week, brilliant. She met some new people, lovely grub, lovely place, everything just so perfect. Then, they used to meditate for hours. After the seventh day, she started to feel dizzy, disoriented. And she went up to the teacher and said to him, "Look, this is what's going on. What's happening?" And the teacher said to her, "Oh, this is just natural purification process. Just stay with it. No problem. It'll go away." Okay, you're right. So she stuck with it. She just felt dizzy and nauseous and not very okay for the remaining period of the retreat. Once the retreat finished, she went back home. And then within a week or so, she started to get panic attacks. Panic attacks in the night. She would wake up in a sweat. And she said to me, "Behram, I've always been a top student in my class. I've always been good in my work. I'm conscientious, I'm mindful. I've never really experienced these weird frequencies. And there I was, not just getting panic attacks, Behram. I would wake up in a state of terror, paralyzed with terror. I didn't know what was going on, but I wasn't wise enough to seek good counsel from someone who could guide me. I wasn't wise enough. I just stayed with it. And it stayed with me for about a year. These panic attacks, these terror, sweat, total sweat. Anyway, after it settled down, I avoided going to any retreats. But now, 6 years later, I think I can manage. And therefore, I've come to check out what you have to offer. Crazy. She's lucky she just had panic attacks. Wait till you hear the next story. So, please understand that we are all holding on to, I myself was holding on to years ago when I started to practice. Pain I didn't even realize I had. And it just came out. I had to wade through all that garbage. We all have to wade through all that garbage. We're all holding on to unresolved issues that have to be dissolved through right practice. Now, we will transition through anger suddenly once you start meditating, once you start getting into any proper training. Anger will arise out of the blue. I was not angry, Behram. Where did this anger come from? It's right there. Blame. Start to blame more. Then you realize that it's ridiculous to be blaming everybody else and to be accountable for our actions. Yeah, confusion happens. The need to forgive opens up. No holding on to blame and resentment and all that. Yeah, some wild experiences open up for us. Difficulties come into our lives. It's all fast tracking our practice. Yeah, and we need to have a teacher close by to help us transition through these difficult periods. They will be there. If you're not experiencing them, you're not practicing. You're not practicing. You're deluding yourself. Right? Everybody goes through it. The Buddha, read his life story. Right. The enormous mistake which Claire made was to think that spiritual practice is a solo activity. But it is not solo activity. It's imperative for us to practice under proper supervision. It's imperative. Lord. Okay. Next point. The difficulties we have in our life and in our practice can be summed up in just 2 words. What are they? The difficulties we have in our life and in our practice can be summed up in just the 2 words. What are the words? Too late. Too late. Too late for what? Too late in seeing the absolutely imperative need for personal refinement under proper supervision. If you're not refining yourself daily, you're totally unprepared for life's curveballs. You will be blindsided repeatedly, suffering in its megaforms. Okay? Too late to see the imperative need for personal refinement under proper supervision. Too late. Missed the boat, boys. And this then rolls into the next too late. Here you're missing the train. What is the train? In the absence of personal refinement, how do we possibly acquire the right skill set for flowing through this world with power and grace? A world filled with challenges, filled with illusions, filled with the devil's voice. How? How do we acquire the right skill set without refinement? Too late. Wild creatures get the better of us. Hey, we've missed the boat. We've missed the train. How about the Greyhound bus? Let's check. So, without personal refinement, we cannot recognize or seize upon the profound opportunities life gives us daily for bettering ourselves. These opportunities come and they go, and we're totally in zombie mode, cannot see it, cannot seize these opportunities for bettering ourselves. Too late. We still live in victim mode, blaming the world around us for why we suffer. Too late. You've missed the Greyhound bus also. Okay, there's a flight moving out. Are you going to catch the flight? Okay. Too late for the flight also. Why? Because in the absence of personal refinement, how can we possibly contribute what is finest in us to the world? How? So we need to understand that we succeed best for ourselves only when we succeed best for others. We don't live in a vacuum. Fair exchange is the law of the land. Yeah? How can we possibly, in the absence of personal refinement, in the absence of the right skill sets, in the absence of seizing the right opportunities for bettering ourselves, how can we possibly make our finest contribution to the world? You cannot do it. You've missed the flight. It's gone. Well, another flight's coming up. Stay tuned. So we need to understand the law of fair exchange, which tells us that the best way to succeed in life is to succeed well for others, to serve others properly in the manner that is worthy of us. Yes, yes? Okay. Too late. Don't want it to be too late. Good fortune, please understand. Good fortune always accompanies those who live boldly, insightfully, lovingly, and so on. And must there be how we can do it? Well, my darling, How do you do it? How do you become courageous, insightful, pouring out love towards all beings at every time? How you do it? Through meticulous preparation and training under proper supervision. No solo activity. Yeah, to live well, to live a well considered life requires meticulous preparation and training under proper supervision. No two ways about it. No, this is a natural law, has to be obeyed. Okay, right. Now let us look at two more stories, scary ones. This other fellow comes along one of my retreats. Nice guy. Well, these guys are nice, but they're a little screw missing. And he tells me his story. Must be. After 6 months of regular sitting practice, 6 months, all the shadow aspects of my personality, the aspects I was denying and avoiding, it just came flooding into my consciousness. For 8 years, Master B, I had been traveling the globe, partying, drinking, sex, drugs, denying, avoiding, looking at myself. But with 6 months of regular practice, these shadow aspects flooded into my consciousness. I was not prepared for this burst of energy. I was totally unprepared for the awareness which arose from this energy. Awareness of how ridiculously I had been living my life. How wastefully, how recklessly, Master B, I had been living my life. Just flooded into my consciousness. I was not prepared for this awareness. Doors started opening that I was totally unprepared for. And my mind blew out. Boof. I flipped. Ended up in rehab for 2 months. Took me 2 months to settle down, to get myself together again. 2 months. The reason I blew out, Master B, now I'm sitting there just listening to his story. Quite interesting. Because I used to meditate with drugs. Yes. Marijuana was my drug of choice. But there were times when I dabbled with acid and also with mushrooms. All this stuff percolating in my head with meditation practice. Must be. Oh, it escalated a radical shift in my consciousness that I was really not prepared for because I had no proper practice under me. There was no guidance from anyone. I was just doing my own little thing. And I realized after I flipped out in the rehab place that the combination of drugs, meditation, yoga, and no teacher was a perfect recipe for a premature rebirth, Master B. Because there were times, so many times I came so close to killing myself. I didn't like myself. I didn't like what I was seeing. Fortunately, I had a little bit of wisdom and I didn't go through with it. What could I say? I just listened quietly, then gave him some advice. Yeah, psychosis, flip out, or kill yourself when you open doors prematurely. Not a good idea, especially drugs. No, no, no. There's another drug which we need to be really conscious of. And here comes the third story. I won't mention the country or the city to keep things private. Here comes this fellow, joins my weekend workshop. Highly intelligent IT specialist, good with computers and stuff. Yeah, highly intelligent. But unfortunately, he was reborn in a family where his parents were not really models of love and compassion and caring. He had conflict with his parents. They did not see eye to eye. Apart from that, because he was quite a genius with computers, he was influenced by the drug called hubris. You know what hubris is? Arrogance. Undiluted arrogance, which made him cling to his opinionatedness as to how things were. The way he saw reality was the way it is. Sweet fellow, but rather fixed views. So he comes to the workshop, loves the workshop, and scuttles off. Doesn't really keep in touch. Maybe 1 or 2 emails in the year. The following year, he joined my weekend workshop once again. He didn't come to my retreats, long retreats, just the weekend workshop. There he was, enjoying the class, and he was convinced that he needed to become a monk. He did not ask me for my opinion or for my guidance. He chose to go down that road according to his opinion. No guidance. I scuttled off, and later on I found out that he had joined a local monastery. And there, in these monasteries, usually people ordain whoever wants to be ordained without a proper screening of their character. They ordained him. Yeah. And they put him in his own little hut to practice meditation when he was not ready for meditation. So there in his little hut, good teachers around, good students around, but because this guy was under the influence of the drug called arrogance or hubris, he did not seek proper guidance. He did not seek proper guidance. He did his own little thing in that little hut of his. With the other huts around, didn't really mix with anyone. Yeah, because he had this, well, emotional issues. One day, the monks noticed that this fellow hasn't been coming for lunch for the past few days. Where is he? He hasn't been coming. Has anyone seen him? No, no one's seen him. So they went to his cottage or hut, and they found him on the floor, talking to Pierre flipped out. He had flipped out. When he came, they put him in rehab for a while. He was telling, once he came out, he was telling everyone that he was able to speak to this celestial beings. They were giving him guidance. He had a relationship with these celestial beings. All in the head, hallucinations. Yeah. This is what happens to people who are proud and arrogant, who want to be special, who want to push the practice. They flip out. No guidance. Even though guidance was available, he didn't seek it. Crazy. That is why the wise people throughout the ages have been telling us, hey guys, do not make the mistake of opening your mind prematurely without establishing a solid base in the practice. And without a teacher, you're asking for huge suffering. It can lead to psychosis, and it can also lead to suicide. I've heard of quite a number of cases of people who have taken their lives when they opened those doors and they could not handle what they saw. Right action, especially when it comes to spiritual practice. And the aspect of spiritual practice related to meditation, we need to be extremely cautious as to how we tread into this zone. Wakey, wakey. No arrogance, no Lone Ranger mentality. Huge suffering. Okay, these are just 3 cases. I can give you dozens. All right, let's go on to the next point. What else is right action? Many of us believe that good fortune is related to what happens to or for us. Good fortune, win the lottery, find this beautiful job, big bucks. Yes, yes. You missed your flight. Good fortune, because you heard that it crashed halfway to its destination. Something happened with the engine and everyone popped. Good fortune. Okay. So most of us believe that good fortune is related to what happens. The thing is, good fortune is related to who happens. Yeah. In the majority of cases, it's not what happens, it's who happens to come along into our lives. Because the goddess of good fortune serves us in uncanny ways when we qualify for it through people. Good fortune, in the majority of cases, comes to us through people who can serve us in relation to our immediate needs in ways that are astounding. I've had the good fortune, immense good fortune, of being drawn to some incredibly brilliant teachers. First, in the US, that fellow who I trained with in January 1980, Robert Browning. He's the one who ignited my calling. Yeah, I will always be grateful for him till my last breath. I've met in the US good teachers, not just him, but others also. In India, in Nepal, in Thailand, in Sri Lanka, in Japan. Ah, I've met with some incredibly brilliant people who have helped me to be what I am today. Without their presence in my life, no can do. No can do. Here's a mundane example, not just spiritual beings. Many years ago, when I was in Mumbai, I was applying for my driver's license. Now it's a government institution. And over here, the government is dedicated to helping people open their third eye. Yeah? Instead of fostering intellectual frequencies, they want people to open third eye. So you enter these institutions, and it's like entering the circus. Wild. Nobody knows what's really going on. Yeah? Things are not well marked. You're in a little bit of a maze. So there I was, standing in line for the application, and the guy behind me, total stranger, asks me, "What am I here for?" I said, "I have to apply for this license." "You're in the wrong line, buddy. You should be in that line there." I didn't ask for him. I didn't ask for assistance. Okay, I went to the right line. There, things started to roll for me even faster. I was guided from one thing to the other thing to the other thing, and I got my license effortlessly with all the help that came unbidden in a place that's so chaotic you cannot even imagine. And this is just one example out of maybe 1,055 examples. Plenty of examples where help and assistance comes for those who are in tune with life. Good fortune accompanies them everywhere they go, becomes their constant companion. It's not just what happens to us, but who comes along. That's where the real power is. Yeah? Good fortune, right action. We need to qualify for it. So from all the things we could long for, wish for, ask for, from the good Lord, please give me, give me. All the amazing things we could ask for to better ourselves, to better our lives. The meeting with a supersonic teacher is the greatest. That's the greatest good fortune. Well, among the greatest. Okay, of all the things we could ask for, the meeting with the right teacher, spiritual guide to guide us on the path to awakening, that is among the greatest good fortunes we could be endowed with. Why is it so important for us to meet with a great spiritual teacher? It is because the close and loving connection we have with our teacher yields a harvest, a bountiful harvest of material and spiritual well-being for lifetimes to come. That's why it is amongst the greatest good fortunes we can ever experience, connection with the right teacher. Why? Yields. The yield is supersonic. It yields the harvest, bountiful harvest of material and spiritual well-being, lifetimes to come, not just one lifetime. So, this connection with the right teacher, please understand, is as indispensable, as invaluable as having a full canteen of water in the Gobi Desert, Kalahari Desert, Sahara Desert, any desert, for one who is lost and thirsty. Just think you're lost and thirsty and you have sufficient water. Ah, what a treasure! And we're all lost and thirsty. We're all looking for ways in which to experience life at its best. We don't want to suffer, but we don't know how to get out of the zombie forest. Very difficult. It's too dark inside to make clear choices. Are you understanding, please? Transformational choices. Good fortune is not only related to what happens to us or for us, it's related primarily to who happens for us. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the Bible. Yes. Heathens. Bible. There was a lawyer who wanted to know how to live a well-considered life. Yeah, he wanted to know how to get out of the zombie forest. And so he approached Jesus and he asked him, "My Lord, oh, my Lord, what is the most essential commandment? Please tell." And what did Jesus say? Two things, boy. Two things. You need to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. First commandment. And you need to love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah? You need to love God above everything else. And you need to love your neighbor as yourself. Correctly, of course. So the lawyer says, "And my Lord, who is my neighbor? Who? The guy who lives next door?" And Jesus says, "Here, let me tell you who your neighbor is." And he narrates the parable of the Good Samaritan. Do you know the parable? So here's the story for those who don't know it. A Jew was trundling along the road from one place to another, I think from Jerusalem to Jericho. And in those days, there weren't many cops patrolling these roads, and there were lots of bandits running around. So this guy, walking from one place to the other, came upon some bandits who were desperate to create negative karma for themselves. So they grabbed the Jew, beat the hell out of him, stripped him of his clothes, well, left his undie on, I think, and took away all his belongings and scuttled off. Who knows where they are now? Possibly somewhere, well, that's another story. There he was, side of the road, bleeding, dying, terribly beaten up, sad. While he was lying there on the side of the road, a priest comes along, a Jewish fellow. Sees him over there. I'm not getting involved. Priest, supposed to be serving the good Lord, crosses the road and scuttles off. Then comes a Levite or Levite, whatever, doesn't matter. Another priest of sorts, Jew. He sees his fellow man right there. Uh, uh, Don't want to get involved. Scuttles off. And then comes a Samaritan. A Samaritan. He sees this poor fellow in desperate need of assistance. And he goes up to him and cleans his wounds with whatever he has and puts him on his donkey, takes him to an inn, tells the innkeeper, he looks after him that day. And the next day he tells the innkeeper, look, here's some more money for his expenses if he needs any, medicines or whatever. I'll pay you back when I come back from work. I have some work over here. I'll be back later on. You please look after him. Yeah. So he pays for this fellow's upkeep, looks after him, scuttles off, comes back, and then sends him home. Yeah. All beaten up, poor fellow. So then Jesus asked, so out of the three guys who came upon this guy in need, who was his neighbor? And the lawyer says, well, my Lord, obviously the Samaritan. So Jesus says, you're right, bro. You're absolutely correct. Now run along and honor these commandments, which I've just talked about. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. The guy went scuttling off. Now, what is inspiring about this parable? Absolutely inspiring. Tell me. Do you know what a Samaritan is or was? Samaritans at that time were looked down by the Jews. Down, they didn't want that. They didn't want any dealings with them, no associations with them. The Jews despised them. They wouldn't even allow them into their temples. Yeah? They were untouchables. And yet, this fellow set aside all that racial bullshit and simply looked upon this guy on the ground as a fellow human being in need of assistance. No, he's Jewish and I'm a Samaritan. None of that crap. Cut through all the racial bullshit to serve a fellow being in need of love and caring. That's the brilliant thing about this story, to love others as yourself. So what do we learn from this in terms of right action? That we need to set aside these self-centered frequencies. I, me, and mine, my family, my work, me, and the rest of the world, they can fend for themselves. No, we are connected. We're inseparable from the fullness of the world. And we need to treat other beings with the same love and respect and caring that we shower upon those who are close to us. There should be no strangers. We are all family. That's what the story is talking about. That's what we can learn from the story. That's what right action is. Okay, next point. Please understand that we all need, yes, need. It's an essential need. We all need someone to be there for us in those times when we are going through a tremendous suffering. We need someone we can rely on to help us transition through these dark periods in our lives. And all of us have to face them. At some point or the other, we have to face them. We all need someone to help us transition through our crisis or our trauma, whatever it is, to help us through these dark periods in a manner whereby these dark periods become the best thing that could have ever happened for us. Yes, transform. Yeah, we all need someone to rely on. Those special beings to rely on who can help us transition through the dark periods in our lives so that these dark periods become one of the best things that could have ever happened to us instead of these dark periods becoming a psychological prison that destroys us. Yeah? Let me give you an example of what I'm saying. I entered college in Los Angeles in 1978, September. 1979 summer, I experienced a crisis. Yeah, I had this deep problem with the dean of my faculty. I was in conflict with him. Powerful fellow, was just a young little student, victimized. The depression I went through, deep depression, confusion, anger, resentment, didn't know how to cope. Fortunately, I had a good friend, Japanese fellow, in the photography section. And he would keep telling me, Bellam-san, you don't have to go through this shit. Why don't you join this seminar? It'll transform you. It'll get you out of your mess. But Bellam-san at that time was also in the zombie forest. He was not willing to take good advice. Till the pain was too much. And then finally, my friend convinced me to join this seminar. January 1980, I joined this seminar. That's where I met Robert Browning. That's where I discovered my calling. Yeah. So look at how life, look at the good fortune, how it comes to us in different forms through people. There were these three key players that helped to transform my life, to help transform the crisis I was in into one of the greatest things that has ever happened for me, ever. Okay? Three key players, good fortune. The first key player was the dean of my faculty, who at the time I wanted to throttle. But if he had not caused me that grief, the other two things would not have happened. Yeah? He was the key player who caused me sufficient grief for me to look for answers in the right place. And fortunately, the second key player knew where to point me. He wasn't able to help me. He was able to just point me where I could get the help. And the third one was Brother Rob, one of the trainers in the EST training, 1980. Oh, what an incredible human being. Yeah, that's how good fortune comes to us. It doesn't just come in some good ways always. It can also be through deep difficulties, deep traumas, which can, when met with correctly through the right people, become one of the greatest things that can ever happen for us. Yeah, transformational choices. Now, when it comes to establishing good friendships, we need to be sensitive enough to select our friends wisely. We don't really want to hang out with people who say things like, "Hey guys, let's finish these beers and then ride on our Harleys at midnight." Because these guys who want to finish their beers and ride on their Harleys at midnight, they're not exactly models of deep thinking or of longevity. There he goes. It's a rebirth. Okay, we need to select our friends wisely, not just anyone that comes along. For us to qualify for life's blessings, for us to qualify to walk in grace in this world, we have to, yes, have to, must do, serve other beings with as much love and joy and compassion and clarity as possible. Yeah, we have to be devoted to a higher form of living than just profit making. Profit making is destroying the world. Look at it. So we need others to help us. Yes, definitely. But we also need others for us to help them. We need to be loved, but we also need to love. Fair exchange. So we work on ourselves. We'll work on ourselves to perfect ourselves so that we can be of greater service to others. And by serving others, we perfect ourselves. Yeah? Constant exchange between these forces. We work on ourselves to be able to help others, assist others, and by assisting others, we deepen our understanding of ourselves. It's not a solo activity. Waking up is not a solo activity. Spiritual practice, or simply just living well in this world, is based on relationships. We have to learn to relate to the world in a manner that is worthy of us. So, how do we make ourselves endearing to the world around us? How to do it? The wise tell us that our eyes see a lot better when our eyes or when our mind is guided by love, not criticism, not complaining, not judging, not arrogance. Our eyes see better when they're guided by love. And when our mind is guided by love, because we really don't see with our eyes, we see with our mind. Yeah? When our actions are guided by love, that's when we are motivated, deeply motivated to be better and to do better. And it's less about me, and how to serve better. Things improve in magical ways. That's right action. So we need to rise up and live the life we are meant to live. Boldly, no wishy-washy, no scary. Yeah, we need to live our lives the way we're meant to live it. Boldly, insightfully, compassionately. For only then do we unleash the vast resources we are gifted with and enjoy life to the fullest. Lord, transformational choices. How can we possibly transcend our delusions if we're not living in a remarkable fashion? How? It's not possible. So, do you know the phrase or the command given in the Bible that repeats itself on so many occasions, again and again and again. Do you know that command which is repeated so often? The phrase, be not afraid. Do not fear. Be not afraid, for I am with you always, says the Lord. Yet this phrase appears 103 times in the King James Bible. 103 times, repeatedly. Stop being a scaredy cat. Stop being afraid. Yeah? So, unless we honor this command from on high to live well, courageously, because we have to take risks to discover our strengths, unless we live the life we are meant to live, unless we honor this injunction given to us by the good Lord, well, we will be living two lives, the life we are living and the unlived life. And the unlived life, as I said in the last class, is a dangerous way of living because it destroys us in ways we cannot even imagine. Right? Right actions. So, transformational choices, please understand. Transformational actions are those in which we live and work in service to what is finest in us. We live and work in the love and grace of the good Lord, who's always with us, but which we are denying daily. Yeah, transformational actions. We need the right people to help us, but only when we qualify for this help do we receive it. It doesn't happen otherwise. Fair exchange, law of the universe. You want to experience life at its best? You need to better yourself daily. It's not going to happen if you're living in zombie mode. Not happening. Wakey, wakey. Any questions? Send them to me. All right, guys. Stay well till the next class. See you soon. Hallelujah.